Yes. Can you all hear me? Wave if you can. Hi! All right. This is WeHo Reads Creating Queer Families and Communities. I'm Cody Cisco. I'm here with Bookswell, and I'm presenting this event on behalf of the City of West Hollywood. I have three fabulous authors here today, and I couldn't be more excited to introduce them and their works to this audience. Here's who we've got. We've got Meliza Bañales, aka also known as Missy Fuego, who is an author, advocate, and adventurer. They were a 2016 Lambda Literary Finalist for Best LGBTQ plus debut fiction for their novel Life is Wonderful, People Are Terrific. From Ladybox Books, you have to get this book. I loved it. Their most recent book, Root for the Underdog, was published in 2022 by Dodsworth Books. Welcome, Missy. It's good to have you. Igoudin is here. He is a queer family activist, educator, media writer, and author of the parenting memoir and court drama, A Family Maybe, from Ooligan Press, from Portland State University, published this year. Lane's book is a must-read for queer families. Lane, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And completing our triumvirate is Hazel Kight Witham, who is a mother, educator, writer, slam coach, and author of the Memoir-in-Verse, The Truth About... I'm sorry, that's the wrong book. The Truth About Secrets, which also, everyone, you need to read this book. Can I just say Memoir-in-Verse? Wow. Wow. And it was published this year by Strikethrough Press. Welcome, Hazel Kight Witham. So we're here today. I want to remind our guests now to please unmute so we can benefit from your lovely voices. We are here today just a few days in advance of National Coming Out Day, which is this Friday, October 11th. And I thought, why not bring together writers who have something to say about queer families, queer communities, and get this conversation going. So I would first love to ask Missy, to start, Meliza, with, if you'd like, your earliest memory of queer families or queer belonging, and then we'll go from there.
You know, it's wonderful to be asked this. Hello, everybody. Hello, Cody. Hello, wonderful folks out there who are joining us. You know, my earliest memory belongs to LA. And because I was born and raised in LA before I was in San Francisco for 15 years. And I was coming out. That was my inspiration to go to San Francisco, was coming out in LA, realizing that my earliest memory, and I hope those of you can relate out there, all my Gen Xers, my 90s booties who love house music, you know, we were at the arena. We were at the arena, y'all. We were at the arena. If you were queer and in here in the 80s and 90s, you were at the arena. It was the all ages dance club. It was right in front of Circus, which was another crazy queer club. And my earliest memory of belonging was, I remember a friend of mine going, you know, I know you're really worried about your friend. Like, he's been missing. I think you need to go to this place. And I didn't know what she was talking about. Like, I did not get it. And she was right. My friend had been disowned for coming out. And he just disappeared. And that happened to so many like Chicano Latino boys, especially in the 90s. Like, they would just disappear. And my friend's like, no, I know where your friend is. And sure enough, I went to this dance club. Had no idea it was a dance club. I was like, the arena, is this like sports? What is this? And I go to this total queer as fuck dance club, all ages, and there's my friend dancing on a go-go box. And I just remember being like, oh my God, this place is amazing, it's miracles. And he remember just hugged me. It was like out of a movie. And I was like, what is this place? And he was like, I can't believe you've never heard of the arena. So I was there every Friday. I would spend the night at my friend's house. We would lie and we would go in her car, say we were at each other's houses so we could lie and go to the arena. And it was like you stepped in there and you just belonged. You just belonged. Nobody questioned you. 1 week you could be a boy. Next week you could be a girl. Third week you could be both. No one cared. It was completely acceptable. And I really miss the arena. I miss that so much. Oh, thank you for letting me share that.
Amazing, amazing. And I think this this sense of welcoming and belonging is what we need, you know, in our communities, that sometimes we feel like out of place in our own families, we feel adrift, we're like looking for that connection, and then it's there, and it's like discovering this marvelous world where all the things we were looking for do exist in our it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Lane, how about you?
Right. So, well, I'm glad to be here and to share my story and also share how I found my way into queer parenthood. I'm actually going to read just a little bit. It's a chapter from my book, which is the memoir of us, you know, making our family against many, many odds. And it's called Pathways to Parenthood. My earliest knowledge about gay parenting comes from, of all places, Newsweek. Back in 1996, working a student job at Stanford News Service, I picked up a glossy issue from a stack of magazines that came in, intrigued by the cover blurb, "Gay families come out." Those were different times for gay people in America. While the decades of criminal persecution had largely ended, full equality was still years away. Just 2 months before the article got published, President Clinton signed into law the Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA, prohibiting federal recognition of same-sex unions. But the Newsweek's five-page feature, complete with a star interview, Melissa Etheridge and her partner, and a normalizing the kids all right narrative of a daughter of a gay mom, gave the readers a true lay of the land. In 1996, and I do want to put things in perspective here, in 1996, only 13 states allowed lesbian women and gay men to adopt. California, my home state, along with Ohio and some New England states, was colored the highly tolerant green on the map accompanying the article. Even then, the writers noted, usually only one partner is the parent of record, leaving the other in legal limbo. Courts allowed adoptions by a second parent in some of those states, although the law is still in flux. And flux characterized the state of being a gay parent. In some states, one could still lose a child, even one's own biological child, because of being a homosexual. To protect their children and families, many gay parents had to stay in the closet, but some began to confront their kids' schools and other public institutions to demand acceptance. The Newsweek article sparked hope in me. There was a way for a gay man to have children, and luckily, I was living in a green state. I'll stop here, but I want to get political right away, okay? This was 1996. Only 13 states allowed LGBTQ folks to adopt. It takes one decision of the Supreme Court to take us 30 years back. And I think we should all be aware of that. Things have changed for the best because we fought for them, but those things are very easy to lose.
Yes, thank you for that reckoning, Lane. And I remember from reading your book, your journey with adoption, even in the midst of Prop 8 campaigns here in California, and the effect that had on you and your family. So I hope we'll get into more of that too. But yeah, things change, things progress, and things regress. And it's important that we're here for each other. Thank you, Lane.
Thank you.
Hazel, your memoir-in-verse, The Truth About Secrets, leads us through, you know, a time in your life when you confronted this truth about queer family coming out. Mm-hmm. What was your earliest memory when you realized?
So some of that I will, first of all, it is such an honor to be here with you all. Thank you so much for including me and for having this event and really like uplifting National Coming Out Day, because it is such a beautiful time to like really call on folks to feel welcome and like they belong, and also for allies to get loud and vocal. So yeah, one of the earliest experiences I had opens my book, and it's at the Pride Parade in 1985 when I went with my moms to, it was, you know, the Christopher Street West Pride Parade. And I still have my mom's like beautiful lavender muscle tee, like she was one of the runners. And it says like Christopher Street West and gay pride. It's so beautifully 80s. And so I remember being at that Pride Parade, and it was the first time I was like completely immersed in that sense of belonging that Meliza talked about. And that like complete pageantry and gloriousness and so much splendor of people being themselves. And so that was my first experience really understanding how special and how lucky I was to be part of a queer family and embraced by this community.
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. 1985. Times, we live through them. I would love, and by the way, I hope to see you all either in person or online in just 2 days, and to kind of let this love reverberate during the actual National Coming Out Day, because we're a little bit early, but you know what? It needs more than a day. It really does. I'd like to shift a little bit to now discuss more on the creative inspiration side. So we live our lives, within interacting with queer communities, and then there's the page, and there's what we want to share, through our writing. And I'd love to hear first from Lane, and then Hazel, and then Meliza, on your inspiration for your writing and how you bring the personal into the literary.
Okay. Well, what's interesting is I never planned to write this book. This was not something that I was planning to do. I teach English, I teach linguistics at Los Angeles City College, and I've done a lot of academic writing and theater reviews, all kinds of things, but I never planned to write a memoir. And the inspiration really came from the outside. I think it came from the fact that my husband and I went into the foster adoption process, very clear-eyed, wanted to give a home to kids from local kids, basically. And things started to go wrong very early on. And I was like, I had no idea. I mean, I need to really share this experience. And all of this was being multiplied by the fact that we were two men doing this, a black man, my husband and myself. And we're very visible. We're like a walking spotlight everywhere. And so, when you try to claim your space, you get a pushback. So I decided to document what was happening, and it ended up providing a lot of material for what I decided will be a future book. And when the process ended, I couldn't write about it. It was just too raw, and I just kept it all in like stashed away for 4 years until I could face the files and the story really needs to be told. So I think that's what I'm going to is it's just basically was the story that drove me to write, not my desire to be a writer of nonfiction. That was never the plan, but the story got me into writing out itself.
Yeah, tell me about just a little bit of the transition from not being able to write about it to feeling like it was something that you could turn to and begin to move through.
This story is not just a story, kind of like a personal story of our family, the four of us, but it's also a kind of a document of that time of the first generation of out gay parents, LGBTQ parents. And we weren't the very first, but we're definitely like in the first wave in the early 2000s. And so as such, it was, having a family was a political act. So to me, writing was advocacy. Writing was a way to contribute and to fight, really, to struggle. Because all the way till the end of our adoptions, in the eyes of the federal government, we were no one to each other. Two single adults. So it was inextricably connected to parent as a queer person, and to fight for your rights as a queer person was pretty much one and the same. So Hazel mentioned her mom's taking her to the Pride Parade. I remember taking our kids in a double stroller in the Pride Parade, not because I wanted to to see people who are willing to see, to recognize us that we're here and we're families too. So I think that was a big part of it, the activist part of it.
And Hazel, for you, kind of growing up within the family unit, where did you turn from, say, like contemplating your own experience to saying like, hey, I want to share this with the world and I want people to understand like what that was like?
So the first time I wrote about this experience was for my college essay, like my college admissions essay. And I really did zoom in on the day when my secret was outed across my middle school campus. And it felt like everyone had found out, right? So then, I didn't write about it for a while. And then when I started teaching at middle school. And I was suddenly like just drenched back in the messy madness of middle school. And I was suddenly closeting myself again. I was keeping my family a little close to the chest because I did not trust. I heard slurs left and right. And I was doing the thing of like new teacher on campus, trying to like check kids on what they were saying. And so I kept it close. And then I had the experience, which, I know is true for so many, like coming out is like a continual, constant thing. You're constantly, like Lane said, like claiming your space.
Yeah.
So I started coming out to my classes. And that's where I was like, oh my gosh, this story is not being told. Like the children of the healthy, like happy children of queer families, we're not hearing from them enough. And so that was like really important to understand, and that there was just still so much work to do. And there was so much power and connection because I had, amazing moments where I would come out to my class. One of the times was on Day of Silence, where I took a pledge of silence and I was writing my story on the transparency. It was the first time I was coming out to this one particular class. And as I'm writing, as the daughter of lesbians, I blah, blah, blah. And this kid in my class goes, you're the daughter of lesbians? I have two moms. I have two moms. Say it. And like the least expected kid. And it was just like, oh my gosh, we're not talking about this. And it became this connection that was priceless and that completely transformed, our connection as teacher and student. So it really showed me like, this is something that has to happen. And so I started to write the story when I was back in middle school myself as a teacher.
Amazing. Time is a circle or a loop. That phrase. I love also this idea of like the energy from what you experienced, that then you were in it as an adult in a different role and you can see it kind of more clearly with time. That's beautiful. Missy, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you into this conversation was because like we don't all grow up in the healthy, happy families that are totally supportive of our being queer or whatever. And we find that connection, that support, that love in different places. And I know from your poetry and from your novel that that there's it takes time for us as individuals to like let go of our armor when we find people who can love us and support us in that way. I was wondering about both with Life is Wonderful and People Are Terrific and Root for the Underdog and all the slam and performance poetry that you do, how that relates to family for you, found or otherwise.
Oh my gosh. It's interesting to talk about why we started writing about family and what our role was in that. And I love what a representation this entire panel is, because I didn't get to have children and I will never get to biologically have children. But that doesn't mean children aren't out of the realm. It does, though, mean that when I was coming out and coming up, I really was looking for family because as I was telling Cody, in the 90s, San Francisco was really a city of orphans.
Yes.
We had all run to San Francisco because we had been rejected from somewhere else. And that was the common thread amongst everybody's story was like, how did you get here? It was almost this pilgrimage to get here. And the pilgrimage wasn't just to be accepted, it was to find family. It was to find these things that everyone told us we weren't allowed to have. And I wrote Life is Wonderful because, well, one, I wasn't as brave as Lana. I wasn't as brave to write nonfiction about my experience. I fictionalized it. So, so I took this way out where I could fictionalize it, and that allowed me to really talk about it. And I also wanted to talk about chosen family because when the book came out in 2015, since to talk about timeline and politics, I felt like chosen family was getting colonized by straight people. All of a sudden, everybody was talking about having a chosen family. And I just had to go, excuse me, back it up, hold on. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say you can't do that, but please understand where that term comes from. That is a queer or a counterculture term in America. I don't know anybody who's written the book on chosen family quite like LGBTQIA people. This is a community that has been told their whole lives they don't deserve family. They belong to no family. They have no family. And so when you say chosen family, that's our word. And I need you to understand that, if you're going to start taking it, colonizing it, putting it on shows, using it for yourself, you need to understand we needed those words to survive. Like family was about survival. So you have parents and children on this panel. And then you also have, folks like me who are just like, can we heal the children that were hurt within ourselves and within each other? And there was so much of that in San Francisco and in the queer art community. It was really like, let's parent each other. We can do this. We can finish the job that didn't get finished. And the final thing I'll say too, was that being in San Francisco at that time also, and especially in the early 2000s, I was there 96 to 2011. I realized that you can forgive, you can come back around to family of origin. Like my mom is my best friend. My mom was my date at the Lambdas.
Oh,
and to think that this was a mother who didn't understand me and felt, couldn't be around me, and now is like so proud of me and loves me. I think, again, that came from chosen family. It came from seeing that I could build family wherever I am. It belongs to me. It's my story.
Yeah.
Can I add a little bit to Melissa? That was amazing. And what makes me think is that as queer folks, as queer writers, we really what's the word? We query, we question the concept, this very sort of rigid concept of what a family should be.
Exactly.
And I think to us, literally, because I'm just thinking of our experience and our friends' experience. Yes, we have children. Our friends don't have children. It doesn't matter because it expands so much wider for us, and we take it for granted because we know that we can really rely on us and our loved ones, and our loved ones become our family. Jonathan and I raised our kids without any participation, to be honest, with our families. However, our friends became aunts and uncles and cousins. So I'm sure that probably Hazel, that probably can remind you from your too. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but it's natural to us. I lived in San Francisco for 5 years, and I remember how important those friends and those relationships were. And then they sort of naturally morphed into becoming, now my kids to this day, and they're now 18 and 20, they call like, oh, that's Uncle Kevin. That's so that's it for us. We take that. We take that for granted because that's our experience.
Exactly. Well said.
We will come back to family relationships, especially I think mother relationships,
Mm.
because all of you touched on those both just now and also in your books. We're going to take a moment right now to just do a brief thank you to Book Soup and LA Review of Books, who are our media partners who help us get the word out about this series. I also want to bring in Mr. Mike Che, who is the Arts Division, City of West Hollywood representative, because he is going to say a few words about our land acknowledgement as well. Mike, are you here with us? Is the seance working?
Yes, I am here. Thank you to all the authors for being here, and happy early National Coming Out Day. Your stories are so wonderful, so I'm so glad that you're here to share them. It takes me back, especially like Hazel, it takes me back to high school when I came out, October of my senior year, not on National Coming Out Day, but because of National Coming Out Day was in my mind. And if I had a teacher like you, I'm sure that process would have been much easier for me. So thank you all. I am here to provide the city's land acknowledgement. We do want to take a moment to respectfully acknowledge that the land that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Kizh peoples. We honor and pay respect to their elders and descendants, past, present, and emerging, as they continue stewardship of these lands. Please take a moment to honor the inhabitants, the original inhabitants of wherever you are right now. Also, a big thank you, of course, to Cody for putting this together on behalf of the City of West Hollywood, and of course to our City Council, because they are so supportive of the arts and of this program, WeHo Reads. So that is the major funder for this whole thing, and that's why we can have this wonderful program. So thank you all, and let's get back to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. So where are we now? The discussion is so fruitful. I have the whole run of show here, right? And I think it through beforehand, and I'm always like, how will it run? Let's do the run of show. I know that when we get back to discussion, it's going to be amazing. But for the moment, let's turn to Meliza. Let's hear from you. I'd love to bring your words into this more closely, and I'm going to make you big. I'm going to make you very big for everyone.
Okay.
Spotlight.
Hi. Thank you, everyone. I'll keep this under time. I'm going to read a couple of short excerpts to give context from Root for the Underdog. And then I'm just going to read a couple of pages from my novel, Life is Wonderful, People Are Terrific. And again, my coming out story really began in the mid-90s as a teenager and a young adult and an adult in the 90s. And so coming out was this singular act that could take your life, but also save it all at the same time. So I'd like to set the tone for that right now. In 1997, you read in a bar on the border of the Mission and Folsom. You read with a group of women everyone wants to sleep with, but are secretly scared of. You are noticed by now. People might even say you fit in. You make friends by telling your sad truth. Only you are not sad. You are alive. And the truth is whatever you say it is. And if it sets you free, fine. And if it only exists in a story, then at least you tried. Every show and reading feels this way because it is still safe to be wild and free and young in San Francisco. These things don't cost much money yet. Of course, you take them for granted. The bar is gone now. You look at the cream and beige condos now standing. Once it was dark and lovely. And you climbed up an illegal smoky staircase. You stood on a pool table and read at the top of your lungs to a room so full it was spilling onto the streets, and out of the windows was hot wax running down the sides of your hands. Once it was over. And there was clapping and thunder and so much noise for more. Give us more. Once You were enough. And San Francisco was a beautiful, crooked place that let you be clumsy. You can't afford these condos, but never let them tell you that you didn't live here. In 1998, the body of Matthew Shepard was found, tied to a fence. The morning, like many mornings, was cold. He was in a coma, but alive. He lived for 4 more days, long enough for his mother to hold his hand when he died. You stand with 2,000 people in a sea of candles in the middle of your town. None of you speak. Back then, we clung tighter because so many of us were outside, out of bounds, out. We were out. Matthew was out, and now he is dead. You don't know anything about white boys from the Midwest, but you know about this. This is the one thing that all of you know. Being out means just that. Out, revealed, vulnerable, and sometimes murdered. As the world around us finally becomes legally wed, happily creating babies and redefining family, Matthew's body is finally laid to rest in 2018 in our nation's capital, not only to honor his loss, but because it is the safest place to bury him without his gravesite being desecrated by homophobic rhetoric and harassment. As the casket was lowered into the ground, his parents said only 3 words: "You're safe now." This piece is from my novel, Life is Wonderful. People are terrific. I was definitely in this stripping thing for the money. And dancing on a pole, giving lap dances that made me at least 200 on a slow night or a day shift, which I decided was worth my time, was all right. Plus $10 around for the tips. I mean, it wasn't that difficult to understand why I was doing this. I paid my rent at JB's in the city, and then the rest of my money was mine. Even with my scholarship at school in Santa Cruz, it was just not enough. I was always out of money. Plus, it was easy. It was like too easy. You just show up on time, you get naked for a few hours, you go home with a wad of cash. You do this a few nights in a row, you rinse, ready, repeat. But I was actually making real friends at school and in Santa Cruz. I was getting nervous about people finding out what I did for money. Okay, I was worried about my new gay life finding out about what I did for money. All the dykes in Santa Cruz seemed to be into Riot Girl and feminism and women getting respect and all that. These chicks were always talking about how degrading porn was and that stripping was just like prostitution and that it ruined lives. I wanted them to like me. I needed them to like me. I needed a family, some kind of family. The thought of being rejected again was all too familiar. It haunted me. I couldn't let it happen again. I had to keep things under wraps for as long as possible, no matter what. This meant more lying, more half-truths. Fuck. I worked my shift as usual. It was 3 a.m. by the time I was changed into my usual punk rock nondescript uniform of Dickies and a baby tee and Vans and my shaved head, no more wig, a little lipstick, and a bomber jacket. I stepped onto the street, ready to walk to market and hail a cab when a voice rang out to me in the early morning darkness. "Hey, Missy?" Oh my fucking God. It was Tom. It was fucking Tommy from fucking Santa Cruz yelling my fucking real name, my real name, on Stripper Row at 3 a.m. She ran up to me, excited to see me. "Hey, I thought that was you. What are you doing here? Meeting someone too?" Tommy said. I was taken totally off guard. It was late and I had just gotten off work, and the shock of seeing her must have been written all over my stupid face. I couldn't come up with a fucking line fast enough. Wait, Tommy said, walking towards the window of Harry's, the same peep show that I just came out of, with the photo of the dancers that were in there, where my photo was in there. Is that you? She said. Rosie. Oh, wait, Roxy. Oh my God. I continued to stand there with my dumb look, and I tried to open my mouth, but when I did, no words came out. That's you. That's you. That's why you come to the city every weekend. There was no way to talk my way out of this without sounding like a complete dumbass, or worse, a complete fucking liar. So I decided to admit defeat. The thought of meeting girls, maybe even falling in love with them, or having friends, a family, it was a nice dream, I thought, but not for me, I guess. Whatever. Yeah, I said firmly, yeah, that's me. Wow, it almost doesn't even look like you. That's crazy. So I guess you think I'm like some big feminist lesbo traitor, and you're never going to want to talk to me again. Fine. Good. I started to walk down the street when Tommy grabbed my arm and stopped me. What are you talking about? She said. I don't care. Missy, I don't fucking care. She smiled at me after saying this, and it occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, I had made my first real family in my new adult life.
Wow,
Yes.
wonderful.
You took us up and down and up again. Yes. So just that book is specifically that you just read from. This is The Tooth, It Hurts.
Thank you.
Wow.
Just under time. Thank you.
I wouldn't have cut you off. You were
swear
good.
to
I wouldn't have cut you off. Thank you. Thank you, Missy.
Thank you.
And my God, that Matthew Shepard poem. Okay. Lane, you are up next. I'm gonna make you big and everyone can see you and hear you.
Can I follow that? That was amazing. That was amazing. What I'm going to read is the opening chapter of my book, which is called A Family Maybe, but the full title is A Family Maybe, Two Dads, Two Babies, and the Court Cases That Brought Us Together. So you can see that it's going to get pretty, there's a court drama at the heart of my book, and it just blows right into the very first chapter, as you'll probably notice. So first chapter of my book, and it's called Curbside Delivery. It was on a hot, early summer afternoon, just before the breezes would begin blowing inland from the ocean, that Jonathan, my husband, shot me an irritated sideways glance. Where is she? Didn't she say early in the morning? That was hours ago. What's taking her so long? A 6'3" athlete with the face of the Bridgerton lead, my partner John was lining up daisy-patterned onesies and burp cloths by the bassinet in the baby room. I had heard him vacuuming this room earlier, and before that tidying up the crib and the toys in the baby room upstairs. Patience, dear, I sighed. Just give her a few more minutes. She should be on her way. Like John, I was trying to control my anxiety by being useful, yet I couldn't help rushing to the window every time I heard a car drive by. Jackie Willis, our designated LA County social worker, was neither here nor responding to my calls. Did the county change its mind? Did they release the baby to her mother, Jenna? We had been living with this uncertainty for months. Jenna was due around Memorial Day, but with office closures and Jackie out of medical leave, the baby could have gone to the wrong home. But that Memorial Day, I received a phone call from Babushka, my Russian-speaking grandmother. And it's so wonderful to recite what she said in West Hollywood, by the way. Mazel tov, she announced. Your Jenna gave birth today. How on earth do you know that? I scoffed at her. We've heard nothing from the county. I just know, she said in her raspy, confident voice. Так что не волнуйся, сам увидишь. Don't worry, you'll see for yourself. I relayed her announcement to Jonathan. He chuckled at my dear 84-year-old grandma, our closest ally in the family. But I chuckled too, but deep down, I felt even more anxious. What if she was right? I had no experience raising a newborn, nor did John. Zero. We had been trained and certified, but that was all just textbook learning. Were we really about to become caretakers of a tiny, fragile life? 100%, 24/7? What were we getting ourselves into? 3 days later, a social worker called from the hospital with the news that the baby had been born on Memorial Day at noon, just as Babushka had said, but couldn't be released yet. She had sepsis, a potentially fatal blood infection, and had to be put on medication. Other arrangements had already been made by Jackie's Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS. The newborn would not be released to her mother. Instead, she would be detained. Detained, that is, put in the court's protective custody and placed with us as an emergency foster home. The baby would remain with us as her long-term foster parents, while Jana would be given an opportunity and resources to reunite with her child. Sepsis made it easier for the county to carry out its plan. Jana recovered quickly and was discharged home to continue, as we were told, with her drug rehab and counseling. Meanwhile, the baby was improving on antibiotics, while the court, on the DCFS request, formally detained her. But Janet came back to breastfeed, and the nurse leaked out the secret. Devastated and desperate, Janet refused to leave, pleading with the staff to let her take her baby home. On June 6th, the phone rang. "I'm on my way to the hospital," Jackie yelled over the freeway hum in the background. "Jenna still there?" "Oh, yes," she sighed, "still there, camped out, refusing to leave. She knows I'm coming to get the baby." Poor Jenna. I couldn't imagine how she would feel or what she would do once Jackie got there. My chest tightened, and it was becoming real for us too. After all these months, really real. Our life was going to split into before and after. At 4:30 p.m., a black SUV pulled up to the curb in front of our house. "Jackie?" John ran out the door, and I followed him out onto the porch into the blindingly bright afternoon. Jackie didn't hand the baby over, but waited for John to take her out of the car seat inside her vehicle. Liability reasons, I assumed. In John's hands, the baby looked small, like a delicate, light brown doll, her face no bigger than John's palm. All she had on was a pink onesie with the word "baby" embroidered in white across the chest. Despite my hesitations, a strong affection washed over me the moment I saw her, barely awake, helpless, innocent, and John just melted. Eyes on the baby, breathlessly, he carried her into the house. Jackie looked a bit shaken. Jana had confronted her in the parking lot, yelling, accusing her of betrayal. Jackie handed me the cooler bag with several bottles of formula and a 3-inch binder with medical information and placement papers. The baby and the bag, no baby blanket, nothing else. Then she glanced at her watch and said, "I gotta go, guys, trying to beat the rush hour." I thanked her. Jackie got back into her SUV and left. It was done. I found John inside in the hallway, standing still with the baby in his arms, awestruck. Keeping his eyes on her, he passed the infant to me. Then he picked up his car keys from the dining room table and headed out. And I knew he would be back in a few minutes, and not alone. In my arms, the baby felt warm and heavy, an unfamiliar weight. And she was whimpering. She was hungry, I assumed, so I sat down on the couch and, cradling the little girl, gave her a feeding from one of the disposable formula bottles left by Jackie. While she sucked on the blue bottle nipple, I moved with my index finger a slick lock of her hair to the side of her forehead. What a lovely baby. She had a full head of raven black curly hair that receded into velvety fuzz on her forehead and chin. Bumpy rosacea spots dotted her plump cheeks. Her eyes, as dark as John's, had almost no eyelashes, and a scarlet birthmark smudged her left eyelid. Her gaze seemed unexpectedly focused and introspective, as if while looking at me, she was thinking of something else. "How long will she be with us?" And what will Court do with her and her mother, I wondered. I was still feeding the baby when the front door opened, and in walked John with a toddler, holding him by the index finger, her cheeks rosy after a day of play at her preschool, the baby's older sister, Mariana. Thank you.
Yes, Lane, thank you so much. This book is a testament to everything you went through from that point on in the adoption process, and it makes me very, very happy for you to know that those two girls, despite everything that happened here, those two girls got to grow up in your home and with your love. So thank you, Lane.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Hazel, that was beautiful. Hazel, we turn to you next, and
Cody, I need a minute.
oh, we can process a little bit our feelings. Yeah. Do you want to say something to Lane?
I'm so enwrapped in all of the stories that both of you have shared here, and they're just so rich and beautiful and vital for people to get to hear and spend more time with. So, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Oh, I didn't think there was a little one coming home to meet her sister. Oh.
I mean, what a good technique too. Just from a literary perspective, you set it up, right? And you're like, oh, you have this beautiful moment of adoptive father and child, but then waiting in the wings is this big surprise that you knew, but we didn't know yet.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's all true. It was all true,
Yeah. The social worker is like a stork delivering the baby, and just seeing your husband almost like the stork delivered her. It was just like a stork, they're in, they're out, right? It's like a bird.
Right.
I'm sorry, Hazel, I didn't mean to disrupt you.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, where could Jonathan go in this pivotal moment?
Yes.
Oh, heaven. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That was stunning. All right. Are we ready? Shall I transition over? Oh my gosh. And then there I am. So I always like to do this thing where I hide my self view. Do y'all do this?
I think I just overrode your settings.
No, it overrides it. It's hilarious. Okay, that's fine. I'll be fine. Okay, so this is The Truth About Secrets, a memoir in verse. And we're going to dive in at the very start of the book. This is the prologue, Pride Before the Fall. It was a gray June morning, but West Hollywood was bursting with rainbows everywhere we looked. Luminous men aboard flowered floats, short shorts and high-top boots, chaps and flannel muscle tanks, unbuttoned to bare bright beating hearts to wide open air. Women saddled atop motorcycles, bandanaed hair, leather vests and leather pants, motorcycle boots I fell in love with. Some stacked two to a bike, arms around waists, calling themselves by names they'd embraced. Others who somewhere were called Two-Spirit, both male and female, yet something beyond both. Sequins and gold lame and long flowing wigs, sculpted legs and narrow hips, high heels and fishnets, shining like stars on earth. The power of that Milky Way, flashing by, the cheering, whooping, whirling wildness of celebrating something that was supposed to be hushed and secret, quiet and closeted. It was 1985, and I was 10, towing the boundary line between childhood and adolescence. That morning marked 16 years since the Stonewall Uprising of June 1969, the revolt against police brutality and societal bigotry, though 10-year-old me knew nothing of that yet. How a protest could pave the way for a parade was something that would take a long time to understand. This was the closest I'd ever been to celebrity. So many stars that never saw the shine of screen. To see this rainbow community celebrated on the streets under such wide skies was a revelation. How we all loved each other in that public space. Cheering, whooping, whirling, and wild on the sidelines and streets. Smiles like starshine, so bright that the secrets in our mouths were swept out and up and away for one glorious day. And now, part one, the day everything changed. The bottom drops out. February 1987, 6th grade. The day is hummingbirds and hope. Steady pulse of, will he ask me? Will he ask me? Will he ask me? In the locker room, I lean into the mirror with the other 6th graders, drag blue eyeshadow across lids, arrange the features of the girl I see into arched eyebrows, flirty pout, 17 magazine cute, try to pretend she's me. I wait for the bell, peg and repeg my jeans, so they tight bite my ankles over my scuffed kids, wondering if, how, when, will he ask me? Practicing in my head how I will say yes. Pause, pursed lips, bright eyes, blink, blink, like those gorgeous actresses on the big screen. Then a girl I barely know walks toward me, one of Layla the Beautiful's many friends. She is flanked by 2 others, looks at me from eyes to toes, toes to eyes, lips curling up at the edges, a little jerk of her head, hand on hip. That war pose girls assume so many times a day, readying for battle. Says with a mean, smug smirk in her voice, can I ask you something? Is it true about your mom? The day has finally come. So, my secret is broken across the wilderness of middle school. And of course, I take refuge in the only place that you can take refuge in a middle school, the bathroom. And so while I'm in the bathroom, I'm reminiscing on how I got to this point. And I think back to the talk. I was 6. My mom and I sat on the side of her bed. My feet didn't reach the floor. I remember thinking it was so simple, the way she said it. Sometimes a man and a woman fall in love. And sometimes a man and a man fall in love. And sometimes a woman and a woman. She didn't use the word lesbian. For some reason, I don't know why, I remember thinking of old-fashioned nurses, maybe from the 50s, in white A-line dresses and those caps that were white starched crowns. That was my image of a woman falling in love with a woman. My mom had fallen in love with a woman. Sharon. It didn't stay simple long. So, as I'm going around doing my damage control, I'm only able to say the bare bones of what is true about my family, that I have 2 moms. My mom's gay. She has a girlfriend. I hope you still like me. Okay, bye. And I'm running around trying to come out before someone else, tells my secret. But I don't tell them what it's really like. How Sharon makes my mom laugh. How they hug, kiss, call each other sweetie pie, and my Quonset hut of love. What's a Quonset hut again? An army hut? Huh? How we have family meetings and they listen to my feelings. How when I told them carefully, so as not to insult them, that I thought I might be straight, they howled with laughter and said, Hayes, you're what we gays call a flaming heterosexual. How Sharon can diffuse any too tense situation with a joke. How wise she can be. How they snap at each other sometimes, and I want to crawl away. How they like to torture me sometimes when we're in the car and I'm trapped and they'll sing in unison that song, that whiny song from forever ago about following true love, staying loyal no matter where it leads. How they show me what true love is. And I'm going to close out with a little ode to my moms. And I want to read this one because I read it in person at one of the WeHo Reads events. So here is Quonset Hut of Love. Quonset Hut of Love was what my mamas called each other in the early years. Quonset huts. Prefabricated temporary military structures, 170,000 or so built in World War II, turned song of sweetness between them. These two women who turned to women before women loving women turned chic. Quonset huts. Corrugated galvanized half domes, unassuming from the Quonset outset, requiring no skilled labor to assemble, shippable anywhere. Later, the surplus found new homes in countless places. Semicircular, rust-resistant, flexible interior spaces. Something that could pop up and protect wherever as needed. I never knew where they got this term of endearment from. Never asked in the depths of childhood's thrum what made these two women, one Brooklyn born, one Texas torn, sing songs of corrugated, galvanized half domes. My mamas, my maps, my refuge, my home. All bare-boned, basic, rust-resistant, flexible, spacious, all peace and love and war zone ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel.
Thank
Good.
you.
So nice.
I feel so howled by your words. It's so beautiful to hear you speak about your parents like that, and to really claim and validate their love as a child. Like, you are the greatest representation of their love.
Oh,
Like, it's so beautiful. Yeah. What a great story. Yeah, and fuck that girl. I wanted to be like, roll up, we write it down. Who is this bitch? What's her name? Where's her face? What? She pass you a note? Yeah, we passing notes back.
Oh, the note passing that happened that day.
Yeah, exactly. What do you know about being gay?
Thank you. Exactly.
You know, your description of the Pride Parade, which was so luscious, really.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, well, like that's us. That's us too.
Yeah.
But you know, it just kind of really kind of brought it to me that, you know, just we're such an exceptionally diverse community. You just completely different. Like each letter stands for a whole universe of us, you know, universe of L, universe of G, you know, Q, whatever, you know, and this representation here, I'm just so glad we're just not like 3 Gs or sorry, you know. You know, props to you, really, you know, for like, you know, just between the three of us, we cover so much ground, but we also add up, you know, we also add up to something very vibrant here.
Yeah, and I think
I felt like in Hazel's description of the parade, I'm like, well, wait a minute, we're also like a parade here too.
Yes.
one thing that strikes me is the passage of time and how each moment you know, because things have changed in society for queer communities so
Yeah.
rapidly, and it varies by geography and by class and all of these things, that each of these pockets of time that were shared through your poetry or nonfiction or fiction um, represent a world that isn't here anymore. Like we live in a different world completely. And I would love to hear your reflections on, in particular, you know, growing up in queer communities from whichever perspective we're talking, there is a lot of shame and
Yeah.
non-disclosure and closeting and secrets. And I'd love to hear how that's shifted for you compared to like how are you now? And like send out that hope a little bit into the world for anyone who is questioning or you know, in a family that's not supportive or, you know,
Yeah.
still hasn't been fully embraced yet.
Hmm.
Hmm. Um, this would probably be the most difficult question for me to answer because I've always been out.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe because I grew up kind of in I wouldn't say in a found family. I grew up with my grandparents, not with my parents so much. I kind of always claim my space,
Yeah.
and like I knew who I was, and I fought for it. But today, the play, like I'm teaching at Los Angeles City College, LACC was holding the same panel as what Cody is hosting here for the City of West Hollywood, which is the National Coming Out Day
No
panel.
way.
Right,
Wonderful.
right.
And I know that so many students are going through, so many of our students at LA
Yeah.
go through exactly what Melissa was describing earlier at the arena. By the way, I loved the arena back in the day, and I was there in the last. Mostly before the kids, a little bit after.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but it's just, it's the disparity between being out and embraced and coming home to a very cold and unwelcoming and inviting home. It's so huge. It's so huge. And it's I would say, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, don't let other people define who you are.
Yes.
People try to pigeonhole me into being this and that. You're an
Yeah.
immigrant, you can only do this. You're a second language learner, you can only do that.
Right.
It's just don't let it. Don't let it. You know who you are, and stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself, and feel that you are a part of a strong, vibrant community
Hmm.
that welcomes you. That welcomes you. The new family, the wider world family.
Yeah.
So about this overcoming shame, you know, I wish that coming out, I wish it was like a switch that flips, right?
Well, it's so interesting because it seems like coming out now is not shameful. It's this exciting event. Like I was at Target the other day and there's cards to celebrate someone's coming out, like, congrats on your coming out. And I was like, wow, like, that's like a definite sign of the times, like of how much things have changed. I just remember like coming out in the 90s, it was that first step. And then the next step was just being out. That alone was like, right, the radical act. But I know in San Francisco, when it wasn't enough to just be out, we were all there, we were all living in paradise. So there was this expectation that you better start thinking about people who aren't here. And like it was always, I think it depends. Like I didn't like, how do I say this? I got to San Francisco and I was just like, everybody who came to San Francisco, fuck shame, and I'm gonna do whatever I want, and woo, we all did. And I still live like that. But it's interesting when I am set back and go, oh, well, the thing that I feel shame about now as a middle-aged person is that I still don't have children. Like, and what does that mean as a queer person if I'm unpartnered? And what does that mean? Am I still going to be a queer parent? Like, if I'm not partnered? And I know people say you are, but or maybe I don't want to be a parent. Is there still a place for me in queer families? Like, I think that's what I'm facing a lot. I never thought that I would be so worried about that, to be honest. And I think it's just because so many of my friends are having children. That's something we didn't expect.
Right.
I mean, I just remember, y'all remember the day we got legally wed? And it was like that moment when like every couple was like, it was like kind of an inside joke, like, okay, well, are they really going to stay together? Because now people can legally wed, are you going to get married? And it was almost this thing too, where I was like, wow, this is going to change things. This one right is going to change how we see families and how we see our reality. Because when I was growing up as a queer coming out, I did not think I would get married. I didn't think I'd have children. And maybe that was my internalized homophobia and heterosexism, being raised to think that only happened to straight people. Okay. I admit that, but I will be honest and say that now that I'm middle-aged and all, like you said, all the rights are here, the shame is gone. And now we are really facing, how do we have families? How do we do this? It's nice to have a deeper conversation. It's nice that we can get to that depth, but.
And I think maybe one question that brings up for me is like, is the queer community's, umbrella, us all together, are we still that like radically welcoming, you can find your feet, people will take care of you, like, or have we kind of bourgeois our way out of that mutual care situation? Because, Missy, in your book, you someone moves up from LA to Santa Cruz and kind of San Francisco. People care for her. They figure out a place where she can live. They like plug her into resources. They're like, here are your people. Here are your people. And you explore. You find out. Am I connected to them?
Yeah.
When we have acceptance, to the extent that we do, when we are normal, as is wonderful. I don't know. Is that connective, like soft landing place still there for people who need it?
I think that's a great question. And I do. And I think that's why when we're talking about coming out in family, that's why it was so different. You came out, you would land in San Francisco, you had friends, you got a job, like it all just happened. It sounds like a fairy tale, but that happened because that's how the community made it. And then when folks like Lane were having children, everybody was like really coming forward and be like, I had never seen radical queers and like family queers like come together so much to just be like, we're going to fight for these parents. We might not agree with what you're doing. There were many of us that didn't want to be legally wed. But I was not going to deny that to another queer. And I certainly wasn't going to let this government deny that to another queer. Like, we have a right to decide our own destinies. And I think the soft landing now is that, I mean, look at the kids that queers raise. Look at Hazel. I mean, they're amazing. Like, they're incredible. Like, you have like these kids of lesbians and gays in particular that are just really... that are taking away the shame. They are so proud of their parents. And that is, I love that. I really love that.
So Lane, I remember in your book, you talk a little bit about the other families who are parenting at the same time and how you were part of a group with them,
right,
to be going through it all together at the same time.
Based in West Hollywood, you used to drive to those meetings at Plumber Park, the public club. And you know what? I'll be honest. Much as I welcome it, much as we all fought for the change and for the equality, I think I miss some of that. Some of that liminal space that we're all living in, some of that flux, because the flux was very creative. Don't you think that? Like you could, because now I feel like a little bit even more constrained because it's, there's a certain idea of let's say normality, a normal family, and it's also like when you said you went, Meliza just said she went to Target and she saw a card. That's great, but honey, that car is going to go on sale.
Right.
And then you'll see it in the clearance section. It's just everything's being sort of commodified, processed, commercialized.
Yeah.
You go to a and we went this year to the Pride, and you see like one large corporation after another putting out
Yeah.
floats. Like, well, it's wonderful that they're accepting their employees, but is
Right.
it about the employees or is it about the product they're selling?
Yeah.
So I miss that. I don't miss the discrimination and persecution of it,
Right.
but
Mhm.
Right.
I miss the realness, which I think in some ways made us stronger.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
like you see those children of the 90s, and I'm certainly one of them,
Yeah.
the people who came of age in the 90s, what we had to go through, and that made us strong people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wonder if that's still there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, Hazel, can I ask, like, almost like a follow-up to your memoir where things leave off? Once you've opened the doors to like conversations with your moms about like their parenting and you and like what that's like at school, what came next?
So I went off to college.
Mm.
I started to speak on panels about queer families and queer communities. And I, got connected to it was like the Lesbian and Gay Center. And I also like had friends, like one of my most beloved friends from college, my best friend from college, she was gay and she had like my moms as role models.
Oh.
That was amazing. But I also and also an adoption story there too. But I want to think back to something that Lane said about how the word queer, that we queer things, that we look at things more
Mm.
question. That
Yeah.
one of the like many gifts of being raised in a queer family is because
Mm.
Hmm.
I, got to see what the world was representing as families. And then I got to know the realness and the depth in my home. And then I also had, our chosen family like converged on our house all the time. At Thanksgiving, there was just
Mm.
of women that were my aunties and that are so
Yeah.
like my children. And so the the magic of being raised in a group that has to look at what belonging really means
Mhm.
at such a deep level makes me then question what I see out in the world and question like how do I make my classroom a place of true belonging, and how do I make
Mm.
a big old pride flag in my
Yeah.
and I make this, and it made me think of like Angela Davis talks about freedom is a constant struggle. Like
Mhm.
there's even when we've conquered our own shame, we are still like coming out to the world in many
Yeah.
so I think I don't know, there's just so much incredible work that happens when people are looking at what real belonging means. And we certainly have like our, my transgender students are some of my most marginalized students. So
Yeah.
the work that we're having to do, even within, queer communities of like our more marginalized folks, like
Yeah.
that's vital.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of frontiers that we that we still need
Yeah.
to fight on, and one of them I would say is kind of bringing it back to this being the WeHo reads is I'm wearing a t-shirt, right? For a reason, because one of the most banned books in the United States is
Mhm.
And Tango Makes Three. Those of you who know
Mhm.
that, it came out in the
Ugh.
early like 2005, 2006,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was banned year after year. It's probably, if it's not one, if it's not the most banned book in the
Mhm.
United States in the last 20, 30 years, it's probably one of. It's about two gay penguins, true story,
Mhm.
who raised a baby penguin, right? So
Right.
based on a true story out of at the New York Zoo. It's a very, by the way, it's a very kind of a tasteful book. If you
Yeah.
actually, if you, it's beautifully illustrated. It's kind of like very, very, very nice sort of very deep story too. As late as last year, a school district in Florida got sued for refusing to carry that book and some other books too. So,
Mm.
so the fact is that there's still, our stories are not allowed to be told and not
Mhm.
allowed to be to be distributed, to be shared. I think that's something that we all should be aware of and stand up for.
Mm-hmm.
My novel is banned.
Ah,
Life is Wonderful is banned.
oh wow.
Mm-hmm. And for similar reasons. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Lane, because I know one of the earliest memories of Queers and Family was also books. And the library, you know, being a Gen X kid, the only way I found anything was in a book.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like, if it was in a book, it was real, you know. That was, and I think you're right. I think like just banning a children's book where the basis is a queer family
Yeah.
or just gayness and happiness together is
will
bad.
say, I think there's such a beautiful uprising against these banned books. I mean, it almost means your book is going to get noticed by more people. I'm kind of like, hey, Texas, why don't you go ahead and Florida? What do you think? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I say it jokingly, but like,
Hey, DeSantis, read this, right?
I know it's
I mean, I wonder, should I just like ship these 3 books out to like a bunch of places and be like, all right, let's move this?
well, it does speak to, which we all know, like the power of books to take you into nuance and subtlety and complexity in a way that you are not going to get from a post.
Yeah.
So,
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
like, congratulations on writing something that is so powerful that people are like, wait, you know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It is exciting. It is scary. Thank you. I can't go to Florida. I know. It's wild to think that. But yeah, it's funny, right? As a writer, you're like, is anyone going to read this? And then someone's like, you're banned. And you're like, wait, what? I didn't even know you read
Girl,
it.
you made it. No, but seriously, it's terrible. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. You know, we should be getting publicity for
Right.
being banned because of the subject. You know, and I'm more than anything, I'm sorry to hear it, Melissa. I really am.
Yeah.
Really am.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Well, I think, you know, I don't want to wrap up yet because I love this panel, but I want to be thinking towards the future and thinking towards activism in a literary space, both in terms of like exercising your power of the words when you reach your audience and also with your peers. And, you know, it's a question then about, well, where do we go from here? Like we've come so far in acceptance, we've come so far in visibility. We come out all the time. We're out existentially in a way, like just with the internet, like yeah, it's a choice. But like, what do you want to convey, I guess, about the future and about where you're headed, even as a writer?
May I say something? I really would like, okay, well, first of all, for whoever's out there, I'm not sure who's in the audience. If you're young or old or middle, I'm not sure, but I do know that if one thing we did in the 90s was we had to imagine people of the future. We had to, right? That was the first step, was we had to not only imagine ourselves, we had to imagine there were all these kids that were going to come out in the future and what kind of, you know, environment were they going to grow up in. And my invitation to everybody is please use your imagination. And don't get lazy, okay? I'm sorry, I mean that. Do not get lazy. You better stay curious. We need your imagination, okay? Because it's going to take a lot of fucking imagination to get us out of this one. We are in some serious crap in this world. And we are in big, like, ultimatums places that we're coming to in this world. It's still so unsafe to be transgender. It is still so unsafe to be gay in other parts of this world. And I just want to remind everybody that it was like that when we were coming up, and everybody told us it would never get better. And we had to imagine you. We had to every day. And I always tell young queers, you are more beautiful than I ever fucking imagined you. You are even more beautiful than my imagination. Because I just kept imagining a limit, but you're limitless. I'm so grateful that this happened. If you want to think about the future, please get a little woo, get a little spirit in you. Remember that you have to do that act. Every day you're imagining these people and they are your people. Okay. And like Angela, bringing Angela Davis back into the conversation, she always says change is always slow. Change is always slow. She had said we had to imagine Black people in the future every day. Every day that was an act we did. So I took that and I was like, I need to do that for queer people. I need to imagine queerness every day. And so I would just say the future is we need imagination. You need to pay attention. Lane's right. These rights are not inevitable. They could be taken from you. They came for abortion. What do you think they're going to fucking come for next? Gay marriage, families, like this is where it begins. They just start unraveling it all, this Supreme Court. So please imagine them and pay attention.
Yeah. We had to be brave and we have to be brave. Again, going forward. So we have a question. I want to bring in the question from the audience. And it's about safety. Because we were talking about kind of different places. Where can you take your family or your friends on vacation? Where do you feel comfortable or safe in a same-sex family or a queer LGBTQ plus family?
That's a great question.
You know, I can't think of a place where we haven't gone. And the thing is, a Black and white man walking together are visible, period. People notice. A black man and a white man together with two kids who are Hispanic are even more visible. And you have to assume that you will be visible, that you'll be noticed, and you have to project confidence, whether or not you're not confident. So with that, given that, we've taken kids to Canada, to Mexico, to many places. I remember to Utah. I mean, like, and people would stare. Well, let them stare. Let them stare. I wanted to build on what Melissa just said. I think, I think in the last maybe 10, 15 years, there's been kind of a more of a push kind of, because again, being a 90s child, okay, I feel like, this whole idea of multicultural, like we all add up to something new, that we imagine diversity, right? So diversity is something that I think should be seen as the norm. Not like go to your little corner and be, this particular letter, that particular letter. And with that comes, I think the challenge for us now as queer people, but also as writers, is to reach across to other communities, to communities that are not just us. I have given interviews on conservative radio shows because I was able to find things that may unite them and us, and you end up realizing that's really not all that much between them and us. There are a lot of things that we share and we should look for. I'm a member of Pen Parentis, which is a national writing group of parents who write. I think I'm the only gay person in my group, and this is my second group. And I bring it in, and they bring it in, and they have kids, I have kids. It's like, I think we should reach out across the aisle and find those things that appeal to other audiences, other communities. That's the real challenge. That's the real challenge. And because on the other hand, I do not want to be my story, my family building story, to be pigeonholed as a gay story. No, this is a family building story. This is an adoptive family building story. And I notice this, speak to different audiences. People in the crowd who have gone through that process, adoptive process, or who were adopted, who know someone who's been in foster care, they do not see a gay person in me. They see a parent.
Right.
And that's really what I care for. That's really what I care about. And that's the kind of a direction I really want to really push into that. Yes, I'm a queer person, and this is fundamental to me. But what's also fundamental to me is that I'm a parent.
Yes.
I want to connect on that level to other parents, no matter who they are.
Raising an American family.
That's right.
Okay, let's also claim
That's
that.
us.
They can't claim America either. Like, we're Americans too.
Mhm.
Exactly.
I love how you named like false polarization, how we actually really do want, the same things. We're much more in common than we realize.
Mhm.
I also love the idea. I think that the future is very much having really vocal allies, like trying to model allyship for our young ones and giving them the language and the courage to speak up.
Which is what you're doing, Hazel.
Yes,
To share
especially
your
as a teacher.
Mm.
Uh,
Mhm.
Geez,
Right
you're the
on.
first point of access for many children outside of their parents. I
Right.
teach too, but I teach online. And I mean, I really, yeah, you are the first point of access outside of parents. You're so special.
And I'm so grateful for the privilege to be back in person in a contained, safe classroom.
Mhm.
Because in
Mm.
Zoom land, you didn't know
Yeah.
who was hearing what you were trying.
Right.
So
Right. Right. I've heard so many things tonight. Be bold, be courageous, be imaginative, tell your story, represent, reach out. It's beautiful. I'm going to take this conversation into National Coming Out Day. I hope to share some ideas and stories on Friday. I'm going to share this conversation as far as I can. Melissa, Lane, Hazel, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank
Thank
you
you.
to our audience for listening to these marvelous, marvelous writers. You can find them online, in person, doing great work. We do have two more WeHo Reads events coming up later this year. November 20th is on Imagining and Building Restorative Communities with Ryan Nicole Granados, PJ Manny, and Sarah Rafael Garcia, all doing work to try to build better communities.
Beautiful.
Something we've talked a lot about tonight. And then our last in-person for this year will be December 11th. It will feature Charlie Jensen, Manuel Betancourt, and Aaron J. Young, who are all authors and artists who are looking at queerness through a different lens. And I should say also, you'll be seeing and hearing from Jen Chang, who is the current West Hollywood City Poet Laureate, at both of those events. And as a reminder, our rights and our lives and our futures do not come without work and sacrifice and building the future we want together. Go vote, please. Educate yourself and go vote, and encourage everyone you know to go vote, because democracy is important.
Big time.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Cody. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Hazel,
you.
Melissa,
Thank
Mike.
you all. Happy
Thank you.
National Coming
Thank
Out
you,
Day.
Hazel.
thanks for everyone joining.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I'm
Thank you,
ending the
community.
stream. Yes, thank you to everyone joining us via Zoom and YouTube. Thank you.